In my documentary, I aim to explore the mental well-being of university students, focusing particularly on how university itself has affected individuals' mental health, how they are dealing or have dealt with these problems, and possible solutions to help deal with mental health issues for students in the future. Now, I think we have come a very long way in the past year in regards to the destigmatization of mental health issues, mainly due to this topic becoming more prevalent in the mainstream media. So it is more significant than ever to research more. I also find that this topic is fairly personal, as I myself have had my own struggle with mental health issues whilst at university, as have others close to me. This makes my documentary more sincere and gives me a good sense of the direction that I want to take this. Narrative-wise, I'll be setting the scene of the pressures of university life that can have an adverse effect on your mental health, whilst conducting individual interviews of students who have been affected and with groups who are trying to help the situation, hopefully giving the viewer an insight into how this can be a difficult time for some people. Adulthood is characterized by rapid intellectual and social development. University-aged individuals are commonly exposed to circumstances that put them at risk of mental health disorders. These disorders interfere with attendance and reduce the likelihood of a successful education. This in turn creates stress. Stress theory, in its simplest form, relates to mental disorders stemming from situational demands. That is, challenges affecting the individual which then overwhelm the person's coping capabilities and develop a type of psychological distress, impacting the self's identity. Now, according to a study of 26,000 students from 70 colleges and universities in 2006, around 6% of undergraduates and 4% of graduate students reported having seriously considered suicide in the previous 12 months. Although mental health clearly varies across certain demographic and social factors, relatively little is known about how it varies with respect to factors more specific to the university setting, such as academic workload and competition, which are important moderators when determining the amount of psychological distress. The aim of my documentary is to both depict actuality and to raise awareness of my subject matter. I'm talking about a sensitive topic, so it is important the undertone of our video reflects that. My research showed that stylistically there are a handful of documentaries that I could take inspiration from. I enjoyed the 2005 documentary, The Devil and Daniel Johnston, as it clearly showed a brutal and honest style depicting mental illness in that world of a creative. The director utilises his resources, drawing on old cassette tapes and videos of Johnston during his most manic moments. I also examined the documentary series Don't Call Me Crazy, a 2013 production based around the mental health of adolescents who are committed to a unit in Greater Manchester. It focused closely on the patients, with one-on-one interviews. It gave an interesting insight to adolescents living with mental health issues. Now, I would describe the genre of my documentary as a mix between interview-based and participant-based. I think it's important for me to be involved throughout, appearing on camera, but not to take away the focus from the main part of the film, which I intend to be interviews of particular students. My filming style throughout this documentary is going to be made up of primarily talking headshots of each individual whom I am interviewing. This will most likely be done through me using a tripod positioned with the subject in the centre of the frame, then I'll use a secondary camera for a possibly close-up shot of the subject's face from a slightly different angle. It is important and near on essential, I think, to have this second camera, as it allows for greater viewing experience for the audience, as when I am in the edit, each interview can be more fluid and moving on the screen, rather than one stagnant shot throughout. Another one of my aims is to gather enough B-roll shots of either the subject's exterior, be it where I'm interviewing them, or possibly shots concerning their personal experience of what I'm asking them, which is also in order for me to have enough footage for when I'm in the editing process to keep the viewer interested and excited. Around these talking headshots, I imagine I will have some screen time myself, or possibly just a voiceover, transitioning the viewer through the narrative of the documentary. I shall also be editing in certain screen grabs from the internet concerning different graphics and facts that are best presented visually. Each of the talking headshots I'd like to be shot with natural light, as I think it's most aesthetically pleasing on the screen. Each of these interviews will have their own unique storylines, which will ultimately surround the same questions concerning their I am also currently considering either creating a brief recreation or possible sequence to really bring these individual stories to life. Creating a certain suspense for the viewer is important, so the screen time for each story is also very crucial. Suitable music intertwined into the background of transitioning and establishing shots will have to be chosen carefully to complement the mood and tone of the documentary. I imagine this will most likely be instrumental music with no voice over it. Hopefully now you have a good idea of how I'm going to approach my documentary, both aesthetically and stylistically. Through this, I hope to explore how university life can have an adverse effect on your mental health.